Hey, I'm Tachyon Blue. I'm currently running a Kickstarter campaign to promote the people of GamerGate. It's a multimedia project I've been working on for over the past year. I've interviewed over 70 people involved with GamerGate on both sides, mostly pro GamerGate people, but about 10% of the people I've interviewed are anti GamerGate. And I'm joined here with Thoughtful Salt. He's the creator of the GamerGate Historia project and Discord server. But yeah, right now, right now, if you want to support the project, if you want to secure your copies of these beautiful books and support my independent investigation into GamerGate, it's gamergatebook.com or the People of GamerGate on Kickstarter. That's gamergatebook.com or the People of GamerGate on Kickstarter. All right, well, hey, Thoughtful Salt, welcome, welcome. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. The holidays were exceptionally kind to me. Uh, you know what I just realized? I realized that I had never, in all the time that GG Historia has been active on Discord, I had never posted necessarily a process for other people to add to the archive.
Yeah, so is that something you're looking at for 2025 or?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I have a process set up actually for the purposes of getting through all those bookmarks I've been telling you about, the legendary 20,000 bookmarks. It could be easily transported into just general purpose archiving.
Well, right now, anyone who has any questions watching this, either currently or later on in the stream, just request to speak. We'll bring you in. We'll try to do one person at a time, generally speaking. But yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask. In the meantime, we'll probably just be talking with each other, catching up. But I guess for anyone who's listening, either now or later, uh, Thoughtful Salt, do you want to tell people what GamerGate Historia is and why you created that?
Well, GamerGate Historia is a Discord server I started. How long has it been? It's been so long ago that uh, uh, I started it as a project to kind of like coalesce as many GamerGate figures as possible for the purposes of historical propriety. So, like, we would be gathering information. I would be gathering stuff for the GamerGate archive, which is currently available on Mega for anyone who requests a link. It's unsorted, but it will be sorted later. But the main point was just have people there, kind of like conversing, posting links that they found important, and yeah, I believe that's what I can say about it right now. Like I said, it's an ongoing functional process for me because uh, it's been around long enough though where after my electroshock therapy that I had to go through, I forgot why a lot of people were there. So individual people, I'm like, why are you here? I'm like, oh, I have to remind myself. It's kind of funny.
Electroshock therapy?
Yeah, I was hospitalized for pretty severe depression 3 times in 2 years, so had to get that done.
Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I'm currently working through a lot more stuff, and my hope in 2025 is to get GG Astoria organized enough where it can just be this pseudo-organic thing of its own.
Well, so you've talked before about doing a podcast or a book or some sort of project relating to it. Is that still something you're looking at, or?
Well, I mean, you are, of course, doing a book right now, but that's like of a function or a certain aspect of Gamergate. There needs to be in the future a general, what Dan Carlin does in Hardcore History, where he collates all of the newest information available and just like presents a narrative function to the reader or historians. Of course, this would be one of those tomes that has like a massive bibliography at the end where it's just like, I kind of joke to myself that like every individual letter in a sentence will probably have a link to it, because you want to overprove these sorts of things, because in the eyes of the world right now, Gamergate is a villainous movement, right? So like, in order to refute stuff like that, you have to come loaded with so many references and facts that like it kind of like overwhelms people.
Well, do you think we're going to be successful in changing that narrative?
That's That's hard to say because I honestly believe that um, we've let a lot of momentum kind of like just fade away from under us. So it will honestly depend upon literally stuff like the GG archive getting finished, books like yours coming out, and just creating a big enough picture for future historians to be able to look back on and go like, oh yeah, this happened. But they can prove what they're saying.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think that the narrative will change. It's just kind of a slow process. Um, I'm a little bit hopeful, I guess, that Chris Ferguson and I, like what we did recently with part 6 of my interview with him, we directly criticized the New York Times and Washington Post, which will be coming out in a video um, whenever I transcribe his portion of the interview that has that section in it. I think that like stuff like that and doing that with more publications could maybe change something,
Well,
but I'm not like super optimistic necessarily.
the thing about video content is like it's not as when people are watching videos, they don't necessarily like quote them in the same way that they would an article. So like
So
you're
it's
gonna
also yeah, I'm also it's going to be in the book too.
okay.
Like those specific, it's they're both yeah, because it is that's what the videos on my channel most of them are.
Yeah.
They're they're me they're segments of the video interviews that I did.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify for anyone who's listening in the future or right now.
Yeah, and also the Tachyons takes. I'm doing at least one Tachyons take on the media coverage of GamerGate, and I plan on criticizing the coverage of several outlets with that directly.
Yeah, so your book will be like very comprehensive in the form of like on attack mode and stuff. Um GT Astoria for me, unfortunately for a lot of people involved, will have to look at the historical implications and I want to say functions of like agros as well. So like that will require combing through all the aggro interviews, that stuff like people like you have done. That will require pouring through all the resources that they have put out there in order to generate a picture of kind of like what everyone can agree happened, but not necessarily an interpretation that will be heavily biased towards one side, if you get what I mean. It's more of a historical look at things.
Got you. So you don't plan on it being like a neutral archive basically of historical events.
It's not neutral, but you can, even if you wade through biased material, you can generate pictures of things if you have a critical eye, which thankfully I've always had. I mean, I've always gone through life just going like, okay, so why do people like this and why should I care about it? So you have to couch things in language very deliberately when you're talking about history, politics, and if you're careful with the language, you can basically convince people of anything. It's almost like a philosophical, ideological battle that you're waging rather than just a pure, oh, yeah, I'm showing you what happened from this point of view. It's like, I'm showing you generally what happened.
Okay. So I mean, I've kind of taken that approach too, or at least how I talk about it. I don't usually go into like the analysis. I mean, I don't usually go into the analysis. That's one thing that I'm having to do with the Tachyons takes. But I focus on like just the historical facts of what happened when I talk about it. Um, but obviously, the people I interview have their own perspectives and opinions that they put into, and I do as well sometimes.
Yeah, it requires an ability to parse through. This is what historians kind of do. I think if I was younger, I probably would have made the decision to go into history as a major, instead of like risking it all for an audio dream of wanting to make music for video games. But historians, like when they're searching through material, they're not looking for confirmation. They're looking for information. If you understand the difference between those two words, then that's my approach versus, let's say, yours, which is, and yes, it's very analytical and very like very, I want to say, very well intentioned and minded. So I'm not saying your methodology is wrong. So let's just clear that out of the air.
Yeah, I mean, even if you did, I would welcome criticism and feedback about it. Um, yeah, I think it's going to take multiple different approaches. I think there's value in a lot of different people. Oh, sorry, I think I accidentally muted people. I think there's value in multiple different approaches in trying to put information out there. Like, I think the documentary, we have Airplay doc listening right now. I think that, like, the documentary, I think that, like, my project, and like also other projects too, like GamerGate Astoria, what this eventually becomes. I think that all of this is going to be necessary in trying to put accurate information out there, and we don't know necessarily what information like will survive 50 years from now either too. So it's good to have a lot of information out there and in multiple
Yeah.
formats.
Yeah. So like what the GG archive is, it's on Mega, as I've said before, but like once it's all fully sorted, like with subfolders and whatever, various events, it should provide a comprehensive enough picture for future historians. But like you just pointed out, what will survive 50 years in the future. So that's why I chose PDFs as the main form of archiving things in the archive. So like when I'm viewing a link to a website or an article, I PDF it immediately and just like, oh, there you go, into the archive you go. Because PDFs are harder to fuck with. You can definitely just like save websites in image form. There used to be a website that used to just like, oh, it's printed it as an image, but like PDFs I find are like, they're generally okay. So I'm hoping that the format survives long enough in the future that it's not like going to be like, oh yeah, every computer on the planet doesn't read PDFs anymore.
Well, yeah, I opted for physical format. I thought that having something that's not on the internet, that's something physical and real, I thought that would be useful. And hopefully at some point people donate at least one, at least one of each volume to their local library or something, to
Well,
try
you
and.
could probably like get a library or two to like take it. I mean, there's whole publishing arms that will like do that for stuff like this too.
Yeah, yeah, and you can, yeah, most libraries too, you can donate books as well. Um, so you said that that the holidays have treated you well. What did you do? Anything interesting or?
Well, it's less about what I've done and more about things that are happening to me. I recently got an updated medication, and that basically has made me stop feeling miserable. And now I'm feeling so good in terms of like being my wishes for 2025. Like I really think I could get A, my playlist done, and B, significant work on GG Astoria done, because I parsed out the timing. If I wanted to sit down and do all the 20,000 bookmarks, uh, I could do it in 3 months if I dedicated myself basically full time to it.
And then you said your playlist too. What's that? What are you working on with that?
I think I mentioned it before, but I'm working on the unskippable playlist, 500 of the top 500 songs of all time. I'm kind of like in the style of Rolling Stones' top 500 songs, but done by one person and with a sane ideology around it, sane methodology, instead of like, oh yeah, everyone vote for 20 of their favorite songs, and that's how we list these things. I
And
really
you're
hate them.
selling this or like as a or what?
I don't honestly don't know because it's just a personal project I've been working on for like 18 years that I just want to get done, and then I'll figure out what to do with it.
What do you do if a new song comes out that is possibly needing addition to the list, but you're already full up?
I have a cutoff date. It's December 31st, 2019. So that keeps me sane, and I have been paying attention to recent releases and like saving songs that I think are notable for future revisions. But like, if I just like kept on going like, no, this song deserves to be on there, I'd be there I'd be there for a decade.
So are you currently, what are you like, starting from 1 or are you starting from 500?
Well, it's all in a list, so like every song is there. I'm just writing blurbs for each and every song, and yeah, it's a fun time. I'm approaching it much the same way I would approach GG Historia actually. Like once all the information is there and sorted, which by the way are two massive tasks in and of themselves. So like first the task is to get the information in there, and then the second task is to sort it all out, and then the third task is to just get referential material properly sorted within it, because the bibliography will read, oh yeah, okay, if you want to check out the reference here, the link will be to mega slash. So you're going to have an interesting situation there. But like I approach things like the playlist and like GG Historia in an analytical fashion. I just, music is different, but it's fun to write about. If you could write about music, you can write about anything.
So I had a pretty good Christmas too. I just saw my family though, and uh, some of them haven't even got their gifts yet because they haven't come in. But a couple gifts are coming in late. But got some cool stuff. Have you heard of Labyrinth? Actually, the board game.
Oh, the board game. Vaguely. My roommate is more up to date on board games than I am, and I think I've heard of it.
Ah, okay. It's like a pretty popular one. It's like a solo board game. It's 1 to 2 players. But I got that from my uncle because he's a big board game fan. So I thought
Hmm.
it could be like a fun game. I think he'd like. It's about the war on terror.
Oh,
Yeah, and you're try. I don't really know much about it because I haven't played it yet. But you're trying to solve, I guess, the various different political crises that occur as you fight the war on terror.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
Um,
I think you'll really like that. It hasn't
yeah.
come in yet.
You know a board game you'd really like, even if it is a bit pricey?
What?
The Bloodborne board game.
Bloodborne. Is that the like based on the game, like the Souls like game?
Yep.
What do you like about it?
I like its kind of like exploratory elements, because you get a set of tiles, and what you and your allies can do, because it plays up to 4 people, is you can explore and build up the world, kind of like Carcassonne, and explore through it, fight monsters, get treasures. From the play testing I've done with my roommate, we screwed things up a bit by accidentally mixing certain campaigns together or misreading the rules because I was dead tired. But even so, we managed to scrape through and have a fun time with it. So I really just enjoy that sort of game where like things build up as you explore around, and you're able to come up with wickedly creative solutions to problems.
Okay. Yeah, I don't play a huge amount of board games to be honest. I want to get more like quote unquote into them in the sense that in 2025, one of my New Year's resolutions is to develop a bit more of a better work life balance. Because like right now, I'm just working like every day on the project, which which is a bit draining. Like right now, I'm more working on the marketing aspect of it.
Yeah,
So I definitely want to.
I
Go ahead.
more than anyone here can sympathize with your position here. So,
Yeah, well, have you done like a lot of nonstop? Well, on the Historia project, yeah, of course.
well, there's been sections of time where like, and I do want to like focus more on it maybe, but I gotta finish my playlist first, because if I don't get that thing done, I'll go mad. But there have been stretches of time for like a week or so where I'll just be like PDFing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of links. I At one time I went through all of my Reddit saved bookmarks and managed to PDF all the ones that were relevant, and that took quite a few days.
So we do have a couple people watching here. We got 3 listeners. So Shalom, sub paralysis at any point, or airplay. you have questions, feel free to request to speak. We'll bring people in one at a time and take whatever questions you have, my friends.
Mm-hmm. There were a bunch of early on GamerGate people that I kind of miss, like Oliver Campbell, Jennifer Medina, Liz Finnegan.
Lizzie's still around.
Yeah, she had just had a Kickstarter or GoFundMe for medical expenses, right?
Oh, I didn't see that. I wish she didn't reach out to me. If she would have, I probably would have interviewed her about it. So,
Well, I think it was a problem with her kids or something. She didn't have insurance.
oh, that's terrible. That's
Yeah, I hate the American medical system on principle. But there's a newer-ish kind of GamerGate figure that I've been wanting to get into Gigi Astoria, but I don't know if she talks to many people. Madam Savvy.
I've heard the name. I don't think I know. I don't think I know her. Who is she?
She's very anti-aggro on Twitter. Details escape me, but I very much keep seeing her on my feed, and I think she would be like-minded.
Well,
How have the other streams gone for this Twitter space, by the way? Because
it's hit or miss. So, like the one with Archon, Archons had a huge audience, and then so did with a lot of people asking questions and jumping in. So did the one with Kathy Young and Chris Ferguson, Brad Glasgow. Those two were really good. The ones with Hatman and Porcelain Chips, that one and that one didn't have as many people, but we also had like a lot of technical problems too. So though we only had like 2 or 3 people asking questions, I think, at those.
yeah,
And then Lunar Archivists, we had quite a few. This I think is the slowest one so far.
yeah. I'm not very well known outside of maybe a small circle of GamerGate diehards at this point, which I've made my peace with. I wish I was more popular a tiny bit, I guess, but like sometimes I get the feeling that some people in GG don't like me anymore.
Why do you say that?
Oh, because I don't know, like you ever get I'm autistic, so like when I'm in a social space, you ever get just the feeling that like some people don't want to talk with you about things anymore?
I mean, sure. Like I'm at various points in my life, I'm sure I've experienced that. Yeah. But I think GamerGate 2 is a topic that a lot of people, like, they had all the thoughts they wanted to have about it, 9 or 10 years ago, and they don't want to hear about the topic a lot. I noticed that like there's a lot of people in my real life, like I don't talk about the GamerGate stuff with people in real life too often because
Mm,
most of them aren't gamers, like my, so they don't really get it
mhm.
too much.
Yeah, I think that's why Oliver Campbell just basically doesn't reply to anything I send to him anymore.
Yeah, he
But
blocked me a long time ago. He blocked me like 7 or 8 years ago, and he still has me blocked. So
yeah, I don't want to like imply anything, but I heard you had a different reputation back then, anyways. So,
good or bad?
uh, the way some people speak about you, your older personality, I guess. I don't know. I don't recall the exact details, but like some people were like, "Oh man, this guy has a bad reputation," but like, nah, you're fine. You're great. We
Depends on
need
who you
more.
talk to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need more of your energy at this point because there's none of it left. Um, with anyone else. But like I just recall like very early on, I actually emailed Brianna Wu and like she was like, why are you emailing me? You only have like 3 or 4 followers on Twitter. Like, why should I talk to you? So like my problem has always been like I'm not a very out there kind of personality enough to draw attention. Which I guess is a strength too, because it's prevented the Discord server or mega links from being potentially taken down. But like
Yeah, you missed your chance to be an E-celeb. Me too, so don't feel too bad.
yeah, I'm doing this for the right reasons, at least.
Well, we need more people doing that too. So, but yeah,
Airplay's
people
here.
were so passionate about this 10 years ago, but today the kind of people aren't passionate about about it anymore. They're not passionate about fighting anymore. Not too many people are. About they've moved on and with their lives, which is understandable. It's been a decade.
Yeah, but there's also the historical implications that they're forgetting, where it's just like, oh yeah, if you were involved with Gamergate and we leave it at the current understanding of it in the wider pop culture sphere, you're a villain in history.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to be remembered as that?
Well, I think people do care. I think people have different reactions. I think most people do care about that, but I think also a lot of people too. They they don't think that the narrative's going to last anyway. They think that history is just sort of going to sort of like write itself with it because there's so much evidence out there. Or they also they think that the media is going to die, right? They think that like the companies that were promoting this narrative about Gamergate, that they're basically going to die out.
I mean,
Which
that's
might
one
not be
way to look at it. It might happen that way, but that still leaves the issue of, well, all those articles that were written about us aren't just going to like completely disappear or go away. And you remember that tweet Danny O'Dwyer put out like a month or so ago?
Games journalism was 40 people.
Yeah, like, man, those people are assholes. That just shows how cliquish game journalism has always been. But like, the key thing to point out there is like, yeah, it's only 40 people. You don't have. I remember another tweet like 5 years ago that said, "Why does no one come up to us and ask how to be games journalists anymore?" So like, if media does die out, it will be of its own making. But that doesn't like negate the fact
Yeah,
that
that doesn't change the game rate narrative necessarily. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
the
I no, trust
access.
me. I know it's hard work, but a lot of people they have kids, they've got jobs, they don't want to dedicate their time to the good fight anymore,
Yeah,
or they feel
to
it's
be
hopeless too. They feel like nothing will change.
yeah, and you know what? I part of my project's kind of like low inertia right now is simply because of the fact that I haven't been as proactive as maybe I should have been in terms of like, okay, here's how you can contribute to the actual physical archive, or I need certain people to do certain things. I put out messages trying to get help for the bookmarks, but like low responses. I need like 5 or 6 people to help me just plow through those, or else I can do it myself, but it will take time.
What
Um,
kind of work specifically do you need with it, or just sorting it? You said.
okay, here's a doozy for you. So before 2017, I was actually just bookmarking stuff in Safari. So I had no PDF archives for it, so I was just literally just adding bookmarks to a large bookmark folder on Safari and just like going like, okay, this could be important in the future. Once I started PDFing, I looked back on all those bookmarks and I was like, oh shite. So I have noted in front of me 20 text files filled with roughly 1,000 links each that I kind of like went through my bookmarks and just like scrolled through and highlighted 1,000 and then just copied and pasted them into a text file. And yeah, that's 20,000 bookmarks to sort through to figure out what is important, what is actually there, what is missing, because a lot of people have this myth that whatever's on the internet stays forever, which, kind of like, well, didn't you just say that like all media might die? But it's like, no, hold on. Uh, there's just a lot of dead links, like internet rot. That's what
Oh
they're
yeah, I
called.
know. Yeah.
So I have to establish separate bounty lists for each link tree as well. So there's just a lot of stuff that to sort through. And like I said, that's only one part of the action, which is to put it in the archive. The second aspect would be to sort everything and figure out what's important and what's not. So this is a massive undertaking that I'm doing for free.
He
I
does it
would
for free. Well,
I
I hope
wish more
that
people would appreciate that.
I hope the community appreciates it at least.
I hope so. Um,
What's left of the community?
yeah. Does Shalom Sare have any questions or anything? Maybe perhaps Airplay as well, because
Yeah, if you do, feel free to call in. Can you hear me playing with my controller?
only a tiny bit. It's
Okay.
fine, honestly.
Sorry. I'm playing Destiny 2. I just started playing the game again.
Why?
I wanted something to play while I'm bored. Not that I'm bored right now, but like when I have downtime, you know.
Well,
If we
there's
don't
a
have
game.
politics,
Yeah,
then I'm like, you know what, I'll play.
there's a game you should play actually if you're interested in just something to just pass time. Warhammer Martyr.
Yeah, I've never played any. I played some of the Warhammer games, I guess. I played Dawn of War, but
Yeah.
that's and Right of War, Rights of War.
No, actually, I don't think that's the actual name of it. It's the Martyr is a subtitle, so like Warhammer Martyr. Inquisitor, sorry, Warhammer 40k Inquisitor / Martyr. That is one of the better time killers I've ever encountered in the gaming space. That's just also not important at all.
Why is it? Why is it a good time killer?
Because you just mission based, go and slaughter everything on the map, fulfill a few objectives, and get randomized loot. It's the perfect 6 out of 10 game. Or should I say 5? Here's an aspect of gaming culture that most people don't talk about. Let's talk about game review inflation.
Oh yeah, how it's how you almost never see anything below a 5.
Yeah. So like this isn't a phenomenon reserved exclusively to games, though. I think gaming is the most egregious about it. But like the average rating for a game in Metacritic has to be like last time I checked, it was like 70, 75. Because game this relates to another aspect I want to talk about, which is like game reviewers and game journalists treating their aspect of the industry as a networking pipeline into the games industry. But game reviewers just don't want to leave bad reviews for anything. They don't want to analyze the guts of a game and really truly take it as it is and go like, okay, where does this game actually rank in the grand scheme of things? Because you cannot tell me that most of the FIFA games that come out or NFL Madden games deserve like high ratings or anything. Or like people got to admit that some games are just off in terms of like creative function, aspirations, whatever the heck they're doing. You got to be able to look at them and go like, this is kind of like a D tier. That's why I prefer tiers as a rating system, by the way. Or you can just like you have rationalities for the different places you parse certain games and media into. So it's fun that way. But like Alana Pierce, Laura Kate Dale used their gaming journalism opportunities to basically get into the games industry on the ground running. And that's stupid. I understand the impulse though, because it is, since journalism is such a social outward thing by nature, just but like it feels icky, doesn't it?
That they entered the gaming industry through games journalism.
Yeah, like very specifically, like, oh yeah. So then you look upon their previous work and go like, they probably didn't have the balls to point out anything about most games, right?
Yeah, I don't know because like I can understand why that would be like a natural progression because of the networking aspect of it, and that you already clearly like, have an interest in the topic. But does that then bias them towards being less willing to criticize the companies they're potentially going to be trying to get jobs at in the future or work with in the future and collaborate in some way?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I can see that being like a very clear potential conflict of interest. Sure, yeah.
like Laura Kate Dale, though, it's kind of funny in her case because she did criticize very notable game companies like Nintendo. If you remember, she left the gaming journalism space in disgrace because she accused, I think it was a Mario game, of having the word retard sung in it.
Oh, I'm not familiar with her personally. She
Uh,
was involved with GamerGate, assuming like
yeah,
yes,
she was a
sure.
gaming journalist personality in the space. Quite famous, actually. She was transgender before it was cool, quote unquote, in the space. So she just like she was involved with Total Biscuit a few times as well. She did an interview with them. Here's another interesting aspect of GamerGate history that some people forget. Um, GamerGate basically started on Total Biscuit's Reddit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like when they were talking about Zoe Quinn and stuff and the Zoe post, there was just this wide swath of deleted comments and stuff, and that was a reference point for a lot of people coming into GamerGate.
I thought that was our gaming.
No, that was Total Biscuits.
His personal subreddit.
Yeah, yeah.
But the comment graveyard though was on our gaming.
There was another. I wouldn't doubt that there were other threads at that time, but like the one that had images circulating of those fields of deleted comments was from Total Biscuits Reddit.
Oh, okay. And those
And
are you can link me those in the archive too some of the original threads.
yeah, I gotta find those fucking things. Apologies for uncouthness. But as you can see, it's a huge thing. I do believe it's in assorted images somewhere. Like if you go to the mega folder and search through assorted images, the original image should be there. Once those are sorted, everything will be better for that. But like the way Laura Kate Dale intersects with Total Biscuit again is she did an interview with him on, I think it was the Co-optional podcast. It might have been something else. I forget the exact details, but like I remember hearing that interview had gone down, and then Total Biscuit released a video on his main channel saying, "Enough is enough. I cannot stand this subreddit constantly criticizing Laura Kate Dale's voice or talking about other aspects of her." And like I was like, "Wait, what? There's discussion about this?" And I quickly went to the Total Biscuit Reddit, and like there was no threads, there was nothing I could find. It just it kind of like very symbolically pointed the way for me, where it's just like a lot of the stuff that aggros will point out is literally nothing. It's a nothing burger because it's gone so quickly. You remember Star Wars The Force Awakens, there was backlash saying that, oh my god, people were so angry that a black guy was a stormtrooper. I'm like, wait, where is this discussion you're finding? Because I'm pretty infested throughout the social spaces, and I can't find any of this like, oh, the stormtroopers can't be black kind of discussion. Where are you finding this? And none of the articles would actually post any links to any of the supposed racist content either.
Yeah,
So
I do recall this. Yes.
this is just one other aspect of Gamergate where you're fighting essentially just like very quick flare-ups. And how the heck are you supposed to stop very quick flare-ups like that? Like as an aggro asking a Gamergater, well, you guys should have took more responsibility and stopped the bad actors. Like we we literally cannot stop the ocean with our bare hands. You know that, right? And also asking us to be able to, oh yeah, someone said a racist comment. It's suddenly a flood. Oh, but it's gone now. Like, what the heck? What are you asking, really?
Have you seen much of what Hatman's done with the prehistory of GamerGate blog?
Yeah. I keep a small eye on a lot of things. I don't have time to right now personally to keep an eye on everything, but I am aware of him doing that. The lead up, the culture war, is fascinating. Any way you look at it, though, because I remember just a tiny bit of antecedents. Like Zoe Quinn was actually at that time going through Wizard Chan and other sorts of things, like trying to drum up something. And when she finally found the when the Gamers Are Dead articles came out, she found the thing, right?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Yeah.
So, like, prehistory GamerGate is interesting. I'll have to go through that blog and archive all the things in PDF very soon, and because I respect Hatman a lot. Wish we could chat more. Hey, Hatman, I wish we could chat more.
Yeah, he's going to law school now.
Oh, Jesus, that's awesome. Oh, you know what? That'll be helpful in the future too. Because that'll help him reason through a lot of things when he tackles other historical subjects. Because the legalities of interactions that people have had with Gamergate are fascinating because, trolling, death threats, and all that sorts of stuff. The legalities of it would be interesting to follow. I don't know if any lawyers have had much commentary on what's been going on. Do you know anyone?
About GamerGate?
Yeah, about like stuff that happened in Gabriel, like let's say the swarms of death threats or various claims by certain people.
I don't know of any lawyers who looked into that stuff. I know that Eugene Volokh, he wrote about AonJons' legal battle with Quinn.
Mm-hmm. There was a legal battle too beyond the post. My
So
memory.
I know he's written about that.
Yeah.
But I don't know of any specific. Now I know some of the claims that people have made about Gamergate and harassment about like fleeing their home and stuff doesn't seem to be quite accurate. Like Brianna Wu's story seems pretty sus.
Yeah, if I recall about Zoe Quinn, she also had a vacation booked at the times that she was quote unquote chased out of her house.
I've not researched like that area specifically too much, but I know that like in the Zoe post even he wrote about the vacation ahead of time. Her trip to Europe.
Mm-hmm. I have her book, Crash Override Network, here in my house.
What do you think?
I haven't read it yet. Maybe I should.
I've debated if I should too, but apparently she doesn't actually cite any sources or anything. She just she calls like Mundane Matt the Blue Skull guy.
Yeah, I remember Mundane Matt being non-spurgy. Let's see here. She has a diagram. Networked. So Crash Override was confirmed to be a scam, right? Way back in the day.
Well, I mean, like they were harassing people despite claiming to be like an anti-harassment group. So,
well,
if you want to call that a scam.
Yeah, the thing is, they were still referenced as like a needed resource for anti-harassment operations on the general web by a lot of journalists and stuff. So there's that. There's that in meshing you got to battle too, where it's just like once a prominent person says something, that thing is enmeshed within the cultural consciousness basically forever, unless you counteract it with what is that law? Bullshit takes an infinitely more amount of energy to discredit than to put out. So you gotta do quite a lot of work.
As we've learned, yes.
Yeah. Crash Override, subtitle, How Gamergate Nearly Destroyed My Life and How We Can Win the Fight Against Online Hate. Oh, I still have the receipt in here. Oh god, that ink is gone.
When did you buy it? Does it say?
Let's see here. This would have been 2017.
Hey, she got your money. That's what she cares about, right?
Yeah. I also have a small bibliography of stuff I've been kind of like gathering for future research purposes. Stuff like Kill All Normies, Men Who Hate Women by Lauren Bates.
I actually have the Kill All Normies book. That's Angela something?
Yes. The F-Bomb. Let's see here. Digital Media Ethics. The Madness of Crowds, which is actually a good book I think you should read.
Douglas Murray?
Yeah. Having read it, it kind of like goes through a lot of the more insane culture war battles that have been fought over the recent years. I remember reading it and going like, yes, this speaks to exactly the experience I kind of like have seen play out.
Does he talk about Gamergate?
He does not, but he touches on a lot of the ancillary culture war aspects around it. So stuff like harassment, the current. I think he was a bit early on the transgender debate, but he was like stuff like that. I have no position on that, by the way. I just mentioned it as
I
pertaining
mean,
to
you
the
can
book.
have a position on it. I have a position on it.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm a trans medicalist.
Yeah,
That's my position.
yeah, I don't feel like I can have a position on something I will never personally experience.
We're not going to have a position on a lot of things then,
One
like
page.
abortion or circumcision, possibly, or human rights violations in Africa. Or
Well, I mean, I can have opinions on things, but that doesn't mean I should be generally taken as seriously. Gamergate is referenced in digital media ethics. Let's see what it says. 203.
Airplay
Okay.
Doc says, "Is he studying copyright law? I don't know. You can ask him." And I was able to buy Zoe Quinn's book at Dollar Tree. Looks like you might just make your Kickstarter goal. Yeah, over 90% funded now.
I haven't kicked in my amount yet. I will.
Okay.
This will get funded. I was actually skeptical. Not of you, but like of the capability to get to that funding goal because, as I said, the inertia of Gamergate has kind of subsided enough where I'm like, no one will really care about this enough to fund it anymore.
Well, I'm glad you're wrong.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm wrong too, actually. Like I said, no slight on you.
Well, I was skeptical too. I know. Airplay is in the chat here. He's had some fundraising attempts too, and he's not had as much luck. I think.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fascinating to me because from the stuff I've watched, it's actually very high quality and
it's a
stuff.
good
So,
documentary. Yeah, I agree for sure. Have you seen the full thing?
not the full thing yet. Like I said, I'm only now having a sane enough mind to be able to prioritize things.
Well, if you back the bundle, if you back one of the bundles, the Gilda Mars, Vivian James, Lillian, or Sea Lion bundles on the Kickstarter, you can actually get access to the documentary, a private screening of it, part 1 and 2, with
Mhm.
with Raymond, the filmmaker.
Hmm. Well, that would be interesting for anyone who's actually willing to dive into things. But here's what digital media ethics says about Gamergate. Uh, all of this exploded into more public consciousness with the Gamergate controversies of 2014, characterized as a campaign of systematic harassment of female and minority game developers, journalists, and critics and their allies. Masonari's analysis is especially interesting as it draws on a long-term ethnographic study of how various aspects of Reddit.com's design and structure reflect, reinforce, and help amplify anti-feminist and misogynist activism.
Wow, that's something, huh?
Mm-hmm. Here's more. Reviewing the phenomena of Gamergate, especially as elaborated in further sources, is there a good analogy between, say, an electronics industry that relies in some measure on conflict materials and a game industry that seems marked, in some quarters at least, by a toxic masculinity that occasionally leaks out into real world threats and harm against targeted women, gamers, designers, and journalists? So, like, I came across a book in the bookstore in the wild where it's saying the most important games of every year of the 21st century. And it came to Depression Quest. I believe I took photos of it. And I immediately went to the Discord server and said, listen, if we want to win the fight, we need to be more proactive about this. But of course, because engagement is down in the server in general, I didn't get much agreement. So,
Yeah, I made a suggestion. It was basically have, and someone else actually suggested this too, which was having meaningful engagement. Something like the attempts to contact like these the media outlets and stuff like that to try and correct the record a decade later if we can, like
Well,
operations.
the thing is, without the GamerGate archive being more complete, um, the people who we would interact with would obviously have questions, and there'd be no reference for us to be able to look in the archive and go like, okay, yeah, here's the counterpoint. Here's an easily linked to thing that shows what we're talking about.
I don't know. There is a lot of information out there. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of sources both in the archive and then outside of it too. With my work, with the documentary, um, with Lunar Archivist as an archive as well. I feel like there's a lot of information out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of information, but it's a problem of sorting. So, like, this is why most history books will have an extensive bibliography at the back, because saying, "Oh, look it up on the internet," it's like, okay, even if you had specific keywords and stuff to look for, even if you had basically just like a keen eye for Google Foo, you still have to try and find that stuff in a way that's not like very focused or very easily attainable for most people still. You'd be surprised how internet illiterate most people are. So like having it in the archive easily linked to and sorted into the subfolders and topic points and discussion areas, that will be the greatest boon that GamerGate historians will have in the future.
Okay. Well, thoughtful. What do you want to talk about, my friend? We're not getting a whole lot of biters, I'm afraid. That's okay. I feel like we're going to succeed regardless. But I'm down to talk about whatever you want, pretty much.
Yeah, if you want, if Airplay wants to just become a speaker too, you could just like.
Well, he said he's at work, I think, or something. Let's see. What did he say? Oh yeah, he's at work.
So like I said, I have this small bibliography of books about culture war and their various aspects. I will say that most of my previous, more recent work archiving for GG Historia has been broader culture war aspects. And actually, I will admit that a lot of the work for GG Historia kind of like bleeds into wider cultural war spheres. So like, eventually I have to cut it off. But the problem is I don't know where to cut it off.
Yeah, well, that is a question, isn't it? I put 2018 for my project, just because I felt that GamerGate was over around that time personally when I was involved, and then two, that's the last year that there were at least publicly advertised meetups in San Francisco and St. Louis where I hosted them. So I think it's like a good endpoint to put it at with the last meetups that were at least advertised publicly.
Yeah, I want to say the point I would make if I was to look at the broad spectrum of the GamerGate archive would be like it ends at Trump's second election.
Yeah, well, why there?
Because that's kind of like you ever read some books where it's just like, and then the culmination of everything happened. We're now in the epochal failure of it reminds me of the book Legacy of Ashes by the CIA, where just at one point in the book he's like, the failure of the CIA to correctly deal with the Islamists in Afghanistan was an epochal failure.
And so you're basically so would you then tie GamerGate to the election of Trump, like that GamerGate caused this event, or that it contributed to it in some way, or?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a cause function. It's more like a contributing, which is different. But like the contribution is important because Trump stands for everything that basically the other side stands against. So when you have a figure like that wins a popular vote election for the most powerful man in the world, yeah, it's important. Obviously we play a very minor key in most aspects of that, but like that's the scope of the culture war that I'm keeping an eye on. And that's probably why it's taking me so damn long to finish this damn thing.
But do you think? Well, I don't think the GamerGate people went for Trump, though. I think that they were pretty divided.
Yeah, that's the most interesting point about it, right? Where it's just like, I personally wouldn't have voted for Trump. I'm Canadian though, so I wouldn't have been able to either way. And I most likely, if given the choice, would probably vote NDP up here in Canada federally. But when I said to you this statistic that was a guesstimate last time we talked in the interview, where just like I think 40% right wing, 30% left wing, and the rest undecided. I think that's an accurate estimate.
So what? Yeah, what I found with mine, I don't actually. I do ask people left wing and right wing, though I don't have the stats on hand for that. But what I have from the optional survey is from 24 American respondents was it was 33% for Trump and 27% for Biden
Mm,
of American GamerGate supporters for the 2024 election. But this was back when Biden was the nominee.
yeah.
Back in this was back in March and April of this
Yeah.
year. So yeah, I mean, but and it was 33 to 27 in terms of how people were voting in the 2024 election.
So a margin of error of like 3 to 5%.
Though I'm not sure what the margin of error would be given the sample size, but
Well, you know more about that than me, but like that fits largely into what I was saying, right? So it's like obviously Trump is a weird figure. And when you talk about Gamergate and Trump, you're obviously referring to his first term mostly. But like the culmination of him getting reelected despite all the shit that happened with him around him is kind of like, I think, a little bit of a vindication for us.
well, in the sense that Trump hates the media and the social justice people hate Trump and they hate GamerGate too. Like, I wouldn't call that a win for us. Like I was very vocally campaigning against Trump in real life.
I know, right? But like the sentiment that these people who are supposed to be our moral superiors have been dropping the ball so goddamn hard that it culminates with that. Like that, I think, is the
Well,
logical
I
endpoint.
I think that I think what you're getting at, and I would agree with it, is that GamerGate was an example of the media completely fucking up and getting a
Mhm.
story drastically wrong, and everyone, or at least large sections of the public, seeing that and it caused them to lose trust in the media, which a lot of other factors have too over the years. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I think that GamerGate caused people to lose trust in the media. I don't think that loss of trust like was enough to like cause people to vote for Trump or that it like led them to necessarily. I don't think the data really supports that though.
Yeah, like you and I both pointed out that it's so ideological diverse, but like my estimate was accurate enough, but it's just such a magnificent narrative, isn't it? Like
Well, only
if
if
you're
it's
just
true though,
looking at
right?
it, yeah,
Yeah.
like all the pieces had to fall into place exactly perfectly for that culmination to happen. It's crazy.
Or I mean, most likely Trump won primarily because of inflation. Like I think that's like the boring reality.
Well, yeah,
Like
of
elections
course,
always
but
have like
like,
all these different factors that cause, and like part of like one of those factors could be the woke stuff too. I mean, obviously Harris was trying to distance herself from it, but not really vocally enough, perhaps.
well,
And
here's an angle that's interesting. Biden for the longest time denied vociferously, very viciously, that he had ever met with Hunter Biden's business partners. Photos just got released by the friggin' State Department that proved that he had actually met with Hunter Biden's business partners way back in the day.
yeah, I have
And
all
the
this.
media went to town for Biden. So, like, when I'm collating all this stuff into the archive, I'm literally just right now listing out so many media hypocrisies where it's the media did this because they had to beat Trump.
Well, GamerGate was
And
2 years
therefore,
before Trump even ran.
I know, but like it's a media nexus that is perfectly illustrative of all of the threads. So, like, one of the common things that aggros would say early on in GamerGate was that GamerGate was about nothing, really. But my favorite line to say to that is that, well, then GamerGate becomes about everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think that they promoted like this narrative to harm Trump. I mean, like maybe some of the later articles, like the Asia Romano stuff, like that stuff, maybe sure, but I don't think that like the I don't think they lied about GamerGate because of they wanted to harm Trump.
Well,
Primarily, I
the
think that
stuff
the
I've
main thing,
archived would show that a tiny bit, at least, in very, very
some of the later
documented
articles, maybe,
circumstances.
yeah, maybe, in some of the later articles, maybe, but I think that primarily it was they wanted to cover up their corruption, and also they had this ideological framework. The games journalists did, and then they wanted to demonize their critics as being like misogynistic harassers. And they saw this as like an opportunity to promote their ideology within the space
Yeah.
and drown out other voices.
Mm-hmm. So I have a book here. It's also very early on, but it's called The State of Play: Creators and Critics on Video Game Culture, featuring Anita Sarkeesian, Zoe Quinn, Anna Anthropy, Ian Bogost, Evan Narcissus, and many others. It's a collection of essays about basically what people have poo-poos with about gaming. So, like, there's just so, like, you read through these essays and it's like, oh man, we just hate games, don't we? We really, really don't like games and gaming culture. So when Hatman was writing his prehistory of GamerGate stuff, GamerGate was really just an explosion of weird stupidity on a lot of supposedly smart people's behalf. Like, these people are supposed to be smart, right?
Oh, the games journalists or who?
Yeah. Games journalists.
I guess they're smart. I mean, I don't know. Are they?
They can't read the room. They're like Neil deGrasse Tyson, where it's just like, oh yeah, that thing you enjoy, it doesn't mean anything. We are open to questions from the return of person. I don't know. I can't see his full name. I do remember in the interview we did, though, that you were very audibly surprised that Lauren Southern was involved early on in Gamergate.
Yeah, but she definitely was. Yes, I saw the Gigi Toronto pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I actually
Uh,
got to her too, but she didn't get back to me.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Milo's back. That's shocking to me.
He agreed to be interviewed, and then he never showed up. He even confirmed with me the day of that we were still on, but he never showed up. So
Keep trying. He might. If you do get him on, he'll be an amazing friggin' conversation.
it would be a very interesting interview, that's for sure. But I don't think he's going to do it.
Well, just remind if what was your email introduction? What were you asking him?
Well, we were talking over Twitter DMs.
Oh, I see. But like,
We've
you know
talked
what
we've
I mean.
talked like a fair amount. He's definitely not going to do it. I don't think.
But I'm amazed he's back, because I thought like he was gone basically forever.
Oh,
I missed him.
Yeah, after the Joe Rogan episode got him into some trouble.
No. What got him into trouble, and this might
Well, the
be
priest comments, that was on Joe Rogan. Unless you mean
I
something
guess
else.
Was that on Joe Rogan? The clip itself.
Or was it on Bill Maher? Well, he went on both shows. Like he happened like I'm pretty sure the clip was on Joe Rogan. Yeah.
Okay, so like but the downfall didn't happen until quite a long time after that, because he was supposed to speak at a Republican convention. I think it was CPAC, and like this woman decided to like, oh yeah, I'm gonna leak this clip of an old podcast and ruin him, and she did. So then it was only then that he got like shunted out of the conservative media space
Yeah.
and kind of like had his long time in the wilderness doing infomercials for weird shit.
Yeah, I know he's also he's gone like a very weird path. He's like a Christian nationalist now. Last I saw. And he,
Ex-gay.
yeah, ex-gay Christian nationalist, and he supports bringing back like a comics code authority. He said in a debate with Destiny.
Yeah, I've always known Milo to be the absolute wonderful wild card that he is. Like, I don't expect him to be consistent on anything. What I do expect him to be basically is very attention grabbing. So when he came into Gamergate, he came in kind of like very quickly and basically used that as a stepping stone to bigger things.
Yeah, well, he definitely did that. Well, Thoughtful Salt, it's a Saturday. I'm afraid we don't have a huge amount of biters. Um, is there anything else you want to talk about? I think we could probably wrap it up then. Sorry, I'm a little tired. I've been crazy with promotion. Like I just did the Ask Me Anything, and then
Mm.
tomorrow I'm doing another Ask Me Anything and another Twitter Space too. So I'll be okay with getting an early out.
Yeah, we should do another talk or something or sometime.
I'm definitely interested and open to that for sure. Especially like if you do launch your podcast, um, I'd be happy to come on as a guest when you talk about
Well,
like
it wouldn't be a traditional podcast. It would be. You ever listen to Hardcore History?
yeah, I've listened to Supernova in the East a little bit.
Like a very heavily narrative produced podcast that has its sources, presents a narrative, and is able to draw the listener in. It's kind of like more of an investigative history kind of thing that I envision. A book would probably be better. A podcast would probably be what I had to draw people into the book, basically. So it would have to be a dual project. Probably I would have to work on a better radio voice because I don't imagine I sound very good on these microphones.
Oh, you're coming through fine right now.
So yeah, I would have to figure out quite a few things. Obviously, I would like to do it in partnership with some people in GamerGate Historia, but I understand if people are too tired to engage too much on that server anymore. But you know, my hope for the server itself was for it to be a community where people can just talk shit. So if it doesn't happen that way, I guess that means that I guess that's more on Discord right now than it is on us.
Yeah, but do you think it would be better to do like a regular crew, like you and like two or three other people, or do you think it would be better to do like a different guest each time, or we could do both even?
Well, there'll be no guests.
No guests. Okay.
Yeah, you like yeah, that's what I mean. Hardcore history. Obviously, there could be a supporting content, but
Yeah, well, whatever you decide to do with it, I hope it's successful, and I'll definitely check it out.
mhm. Well, it was nice talking to you again.
Yes.
Reading list before you go. See if you can track down State of Play.
Oh, State of Play.
The State of Play.
Okay.
Seven Stories Press. F-Bomb, Dispatches from the War on Feminism.
Well, I don't think I'm going to pick up most of these to read them. I might pick
Well,
up.
these have direct reference to Gamergate,
Yeah,
so
I don't. Yeah, I don't think that's an area where I'm going to be exploring. I might pick up Zoe Quinn's book though. But
mhm.
right now I'm trying to like wrap up the project.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
This is mostly for the benefit of listeners too.
Okay.
Digital Media Ethics, third edition. The Madness of Crowds, Gender, Race, and Identity by Douglas Murray. And Men Who Hate Women by Laura Bates.
All right. Well, hey, thank you so much, Thoughtful Salt. Thank you everyone who's listening, and please, if you haven't already, decide to back the Kickstarter. It's GamerGateBook.com with the people of GamerGate on Kickstarter. I've interviewed over 70 people involved, including Thoughtful Salt here and Airplay in the chat. So yeah, definitely, please decide to pick up your copies of these lovely books today. The first volume's already done. The people of GamerGate, GamerGateBook.com. Thank you. Have a great night. Thoughtful. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.